sisters, we've all turned up the radio to hear Brother Jimmy Lakey, from coast to coast and shore to shore. Now raise your voice. Oh, let us all, Jimmy Lakey, get out of bed. Jimmy Lakey, raise your voice. Jimmy Lakey, Lakey, hey, can't live without it with Jimmy Lakey. Jimmy Lakey.
All right, this thing on. I'm ready to go. Let's do it, my friends. Glad to have you here on this glorious day the Lord has made. What is it? The 5th day of June, year of our Lord, 2025. 060525. If you're writing the checks out to him today, make them payable to Jimmy Lakey or Rivers Promise and just mail them right in. We'd appreciate that. 060525. Thank you, and you are welcome. Lots of things to get to today. Colonel William Dunn's going to be on the show talking about this crazy attack, wild attack, something that you'd probably thought was written in a Hollywood script. This attack that happened on the Russian airfields and took out a big chunk of the Russian Air Force. We'll talk to Colonel William Dunn about that really act of brilliance by the Ukrainians by 18 months in the planning. We will discuss that here this morning. Also, Sal Litvak, Let My People Laugh, a guy that writes about comedy and humor, going to come on and the Jewish community and talk about the horrible people and the horrible guy that started the crap in Boulder. So that's on the topic of discussion as well this morning. Anyway, good to have you here on the program. Jimmy is my name. Jaime Lagos is what some people call me, south of the border, but if anywhere you're at, just make sure you say it very politely. Jimmy Lakey, pleasured, pleased, and I am thrilled to be here. I have to tell you, indeed I am. All right, let's get to some news here of the day. One of the things talking about the horrible tragedy that happened just down the street from here in Boulder, Colorado. Immediately, we talked about this yesterday. Should the guy's family be deported? We were told that his wife and 5 kids from Colorado Springs or El Paso County area were taken into custody, and court stepped in and has now said, hold on, you can't deport them so quickly. Somebody said yesterday in the program, said, well, if they're legal citizens, they shouldn't be deported. Well, first of all, I think all of them are illegal. They had overstayed their visas, but a U.S. judge headline halts deportation of Boulder firebombing suspect's family. A federal judge, once again, stepping their nasty asses in the way, has issued an order to prevent the deportation of the wife and 5 children of the Egyptian man charged in the firebombing attack in Boulder, Colorado. U.S. District Judge Gordon P. Gallagher, name like that, probably got bullied in school and has an axe to grind. Gordon P. Gallagher, no relation to John P. Cole, I don't think. Gordon P. Gallagher granted a request from the family of Mohammed Sabri Solomon to halt the deportation proceedings. Who were taken into custody. The family members have not been charged in the attack on a group demonstrating for the release of the Israeli hostages. The judge, U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, said Wednesday they are being processed for removal and proceedings. It is rare that family members of a person accused of a crime are detained and threatened with deportation. But Solomon's wife, 18-year-old daughter, 2 minor sons, and 2 minor daughters are all Egyptian citizens. We are investigating to what extent his family knew about his heinous attack, if they had knowledge of it, or if they provided support to it. Kristi Noem said all federal authorities will be immediately cracked down on people who overstay their visas in response to Boulder. Solomon told authorities that no one, including his family, knew about his planned attack. And earlier Wednesday, authorities raised the number of victims to 12 to 15, plus a dog, which in Colorado, you even look at a dog wrong, you're going to get in bad trouble. So he's probably going to get charged more for the dog than human life. Sometimes in Colorado, it becomes iffy. Boulder County officials have provided the update in a news release, and they say the victims or the injured were 25 to 88 years of age now, and the Associated Press. Anyway, it's interesting that a judge steps in here and says, hey, you can't deport this family. And Kristi Noem says, we're going to crack down on all overstays on the visa. What say you? I know it's unusual. Just because your husband or your spouse or your child does something doesn't mean that you're guilty of the crime as well. However, if the crime the first crime that this guy's done is he's illegal alien, and his family is also illegal aliens, and they should probably be rectified and dealt with in a situation that, what do you do with the illegals? You deport them. You send them back to their homeland. You say, Jimmy, where's the heart and where's the mercy? Well, that's not really where was the dignity and the rightness of coming into our country or overstaying your visa? So don't try to make Kristi Noem and the Trump administration look like they're people with no mercy. We're getting rid of people who are criminals, and overstaying your visa is by definition a criminal activity, and maybe not highlighted that much. But now when Papa goes out and tries to burn up the Jews, then doggone it, we're going to pay attention to it. Give me your thoughts on that. Do you agree this court stepping in and say, wait, just because daddy did something, you can't do something to the family? Again, were their visas expired? And what's the remedy for that? If you have an expired visa and you have overstayed your visa, I'm sorry, what are you going to do? Just let them roam around El Paso County? I don't know. And I think you do at least have to detain them until you dig deep into their devices, their computers, their phone logs, all of their internet history, and find out were they somehow their emails or text messages, and find out if anybody in this family actually knew about what was going to happen Sunday in Boulder. So your thoughts, welcome to the chat room, and everywhere on all the platforms that we're on this morning. You can comment on a chat room basis. That means you go to the Facebook feed right now. If you're watching, that's if you're watching live. Some of you listen to the show later in the day. You listen later in the day based on the podcast platforms, and we appreciate that. But if you are watching us live on YouTube or Rumble or Facebook or Instagram this morning, my friends, here's what you do. You go right in there and you go right in there and you make a comment. And on most of the platforms, we will see your comment. What do you think about the judge halting the deportation and interfering once again in actions that are really made to keep America safe? And we'll follow up on this and what the Department of Homeland Security and Immigration will say in regard to this stop by the federal judge, Gordon P. Gallagher. Usually when you got a P as a middle name, with all respect to John P. Cole, you got Roscoe P. Coltrane, you got Gordon P. Gallagher. There's something about people that have a P in the middle name. That just came to me that maybe there should be some study done that if because people that are born under a certain sign, Scorpio, Sagittarius, are supposedly prone to certain behavioral or behavioral bents, right? Well, I'm thinking if you got the P in the middle name, Gordon P. Gallagher, Roscoe P. Coltrane, and of course our famed historian John P. Cole, all of these things. I'm just wondering about that now. Let's do some research on that, Delilah. If we get any federal government grant for research here at the House of Lakey and the Lakey Entertainment Towers, please take some of that federal research dollar that we get, because Harvard doesn't need it. Take it and let's research people with a middle name that starts with a P. Thank you, and you're welcome. All right, good morning, everybody. Good to have you here. If you're new to the show, people joining us from all across the country, the Twitter feed is just picking up some heat this morning. Takes a while for everybody to gather and get their notifications together. The Facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page. That's a big page for us. The Media Equalizer page, Red Wave America. Out there on the YouTubes. Hello, YouTubes. We've lasted. Producer Chad and I have survived on YouTube now for like 4 months without a suspension or a spanking. Producer Chad's begging for a spanking. If any of you would like to comply with that, feel free. But he hasn't got his YouTube spanking in a while. And I'm okay. I don't need a YouTube spanking. I'm fine. But Producer Chad maybe have a hankering for a spanking. A hankering for a spankering. And Producer Chad will gladly oblige if you would like to. Just email him. Don't email info@Jimmy Lakey. We don't want to hear that. But if you're hankering for a spankering with Producer Chad, I'm sure he could oblige. And yeah, he could. Let's go back to the middle name. All right, what else do I have? By the way, if you are new to the program, my name is Jimmy, as the topic or the title of the show says, Jimmy Lakey. Years and years in corporate radio, I have been unleashed from the confines of corporate radio, and I have remained committed to good radio and not corporate radio, and broadcast. And so here we are together, and this Lakey has been unleashed, and I'm glad to be unleashed here with you this morning. All right, I had some friends talking about this yesterday, surprise, and I said, just relax. Some people watch the news like it's a tabloid soap opera, and they get all hell-bent and twisted up and tantalized into all sorts of weird topics, and you just want to say, settle down, my friend, settle down. The topic that I guess Elon Musk, brother Elon, went out and tweeted that the big, bad, beautiful bill, the BBB, is not the Better Business Bureau, but the big, bad, beautiful bill is stupid. He doesn't like it. He thinks it's wasteful. He thinks Republicans voting for it are cowards because it doesn't go far enough. It doesn't push far enough. And some people say it was an indirect criticism of President Donald J. Trump. Well, I told my friend, I said, lighten up. I said, there's, they may be some tit and tat and there's not. But it's just, everybody settle down. Elon has the right to his opinion. Elon put a whole big bunch of clout and collateral, just as of his own personal reputation, in defined spending cuts, and he's just not happy that the Republicans are that committed to it. How does that thought differ for most of us, how we think of Republicans in the House of Representatives and Republicans in the U.S. Senate? Most of us do realize it, but you also have to balance my need and my want to get desire to get everything I want with the fact that I've got some other districts that have different views as far as people that are Republicans, and not everybody wants what I want. So there is a thing of compromise. And Elon comes from the corporate world, in which he's the corporate guy and he makes the decisions on a day-to-day basis. And pretty much what he says goes. And the world of politics is a little bit different than that. And I think Elon understands it. But you have to understand Elon's frustration by calling the big, beautiful bill a bunch of bull crap. You have to understand that he has a right to do that because he's left some blood on the field. He's left some skin on the field. He's got some scrapes, some black eyes. He's taken millions and billions of dollars of hit for his own personal economy. And so let the guy speak his mind. And if he thinks the bill's stupid, the bill's stupid. And you know what? Honestly, the bill is stupid. The bill is a piece of crap. But guess what? In the world that we live, sometimes the only thing you can do in the hallowed halls of Congress, because of years and years of dysfunction, is you just have to send the best looking pile of crap through and get that through. And then hopefully you clean up the stool the next time it goes through. I mean, it's I think that's the perspective we're at. He would love the perfect bill, and I love the perfect bill as well. But I think in the world we live in, we have to realize that the perfect bill is not going to pass, but it's going to be an ongoing piece of perfection. You take everything you can, get on the playing field now, and then the next time you get out there, you take as much as you can every time. We're not going to fix this thing immediately because, we've been... it's kind of like, and I hate to be crass and crude, but I think this is the world of the American political scene here. It's kind of like if you get Montezuma's revenge, you've ever traveled and your system's just not right, and you take that first dose of the Pepto-Bismol, what do you have to do a few hours later? You take another dose of the Pepto-Bismol. Why? Because the one dose did not solve the issue, right? It didn't stop it. When you buy a box, and I hate to be crude and crass, but that's the kind of stuff we're dealing with in Washington, D.C. It's just big piles of poop is what it is. A bunch of poop up there. A bunch of poop heads running the country in the hallowed halls of Congress. We understand that. And I cleaned up the language for the family entertainment value of this show. And so for Brother Elon to criticize, it's kind of like, in my estimation, Brother Elon, if you're watching, love you, brother. And I got to be careful how I'm with that arm up, or they'll also say I'm a Cory Booker Nazi. I don't want to be that. But I'm tapping my heart, and I'm giving you the thumbs up. Made no sense, but hey, it's better than becoming like a Nazi like Cory Booker. You don't want to do that, do you? No, you don't. It's kind of like when you go buy the Imodium at the CVS or the Walgreens, they don't just sell one pill, right? You don't just take the pill and say, well, there we go. We're all cleared up now. No, they give you another pill and tell you how to take it until the problem is remedied. And that's what I think Brother Elon is struggling with. And I don't blame him. We get frustrated at it as well. But you just got to realize the crap that we've been spewing in Washington, D.C. ain't going to get cleaned up that easily. Make sense to you? Is that an explanation? But people are saying that he's criticizing Donald Trump. Why is Donald Trump not fighting back? Well, I think there's a mutual respect there. And I think Donald Trump in his heart of hearts knows that Elon's probably right. My opinion, I don't have it, not in the head of Donald J. Trump, but I think he probably knows Elon's right and has a right to his opinion, but also knows that on the other hand, he has to kind of lay low and not critique the Congress too much, because if he does critique the Congress too much, he's going to have problems. He needs their help. Jason Miller, I believe, Jason Miller, former senior Trump advisor, says Elon needs to be careful. He's going about criticizing the president's policy bill completely wrong. Miller said this is still going through the Senate. There's still a lot of changes that are going to be made. If you have this juice, if you have this influence, then you should be taking that and trying to change the bill and make it however you see fit. Now, when you leave the administration, you're going back to your business. Then obviously you're speaking on behalf of your business. You're not speaking on behalf of the administration or other people. Jason Miller says, I think Elon is going about this completely the wrong way, because the other thing, too, is it comes across as very personal. And look, this is a big, massive budget bill. It's the reconciliation bill. President Trump did not call it a big, perfect bill. He called it the big, beautiful bill. And that's how this works. The Constitution says it goes through the Congress. That's how it gets done. And Jason Miller says, you just got to, it's not the right way to do it, and you just got to get it done. So give me your thoughts on Elon Musk's critique of the big, beautiful bill. Do you think it gives any... maybe it wakes up some members of Congress, and maybe he's using it as kind of to push them in the right direction. Jason Miller says, listen, you're not in D.C., but if you have influence in D.C. and you have some juice, why don't you work on fixing the bill rather than standing on the sideline critiquing the bill? And Musk actually wrote in his X feed, shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it. Talking about the members of the House. So anyway, your thoughts. Elon is raising some controversy by criticizing the big, beautiful bill and saying people voted for it, did it the wrong, committed a wrongdoing. And some people are saying, why is Trump not punching back? I have the theory, and again, Trump could punch back. I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but I have the theory out there that Trump's not that bothered or worried about it because he's got other things coming up that he's got to get through the hallowed halls of Congress, and Elon can have his opinion, but he's just got to get some other stuff done. All right, give me your thoughts out there. Cody says, morning, Brother Jimmy and Brother Chad. Well, good morning, Brother Cody. How are you today? It's good to see you. Really is. Everybody check in, too. We need our check-ins. People still gathering in on all the feeds. It takes a while. Not everybody's on their computer right at 8 o'clock in the morning, Mountain Time, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. So some people log in at 15 and go, oh, yeah, the Lakey thing going on. And they're getting notifications. So come on. We love to have you all out there wherever you're watching the program. Good to have you. And by the way, some of you that are not watching live, you're listening to the audio version only on a podcast version. And for all of you, if you ever miss the live feed in the morning where you get to see this glorious face that the Lord has created in his own image, you're welcome. You can listen to the audio-only version of the show, and that is on all the podcast platforms shortly after we finish this live stream broadcast or podcast or streamcast. It goes up, and it'll be on the Apple Podcast. It will be on the... it's on the Apple Podcast, the Spotify, the iHeart, the Podbean. It's on all of them. So if you have a backup or you just want to drive down the road and hear my voice and turn up the bass extra high, I understand. Here's what you do. You just download the audio and move right along your merry way. And we always love to have you tuning in, whether you're watching it live or after the fact. All right. Got a question of the day for you. Producer Chad and I were contemplating a discussion that we had read online that people sometimes, no matter how much money you make, you still keep doing the things that you did when you didn't have any money. I mean, does anybody remember like when you were, let's say, poor, just starting your career? Maybe you grew up real poor. Maybe you're a poor college student, and you remember the things that you did when you had to be frugal. Maybe you didn't recognize yourself as a poor person, but you had no other cause or no other, you had no other path except to be very, very, very frugal. Well, if you think to the last time you were at somebody's house that you thought they had money, you may be surprised that they probably, like you, are still doing some of the things that they did back before they had money, because it's just the habits we fall into. You might be surprised, for instance, people that have a lot of money and don't have to clip the coupons still have the coupon envelope, or as Ron White said, the coupons. They still have the coupon envelope clipped on the fridge in an envelope. People still do that even if they don't have to. Well, social media is talking about this very thing, that poor people or frugal people habits that they claim they never stop doing, and they're never going to stop doing it, no matter how rich or how well loaded their pocketbooks are. My question of the day, or our question of the day, is what are the frugal habits that you continue to hold on to and you don't see yourself surrendering it anytime in the near future? That's the question of the day. What frugal habits do you still have And you have them not because you have to anymore, but because you want to. Maybe you are still the coupon clipper. Are you still the coupon clipper? You know what I am? I am not a coupon clipper. And sometimes I don't even think it works. It saves me any money. But I have the grocery store app. And if there's a digital coupon there, because I shop at a store mostly called a Safeway. And I go to the Safeway. That's my preference of store because it's closer, it's more comfortable, it's not as big and sprawling and not as crowded. So I go to the Safeway. Well, they have something on the app. And, I hate this thing where you got to punch in your phone number and suddenly what was going to cost you $10 costs you $3. I do that. That's that's a common sense thing, right? But I will spend time in the store, and I'll confess this to you right here. It says digital coupon. In other words, you got to scan this damn barcode at the shelf, and if you scan it just right, it will add it in, connected to your phone number, and you'll get a discount. The most recent one was like on avocados. I limit 10. I think they were 77 cents a piece or 70 cents a piece. And I'm going to max out, but they were going to be like $45 a piece if I didn't do it. I get them 77 cents. So I'm standing there at the entrance of the grocery store trying to get shots of this damn barcode and get it scanned. And it took me a while, and I probably look like a fool, but sometimes those barcodes aren't easy to scan. But I will go out of my way at the grocery store to scan a barcode for a digital coupon. and all of that for 25 cents. Anybody else, what are your habits that you have that you still have and you don't necessarily have to have them, but you still have them? Me scanning barcodes at the grocery store, that's a habit that I have, and it's kind of fun, I guess. What are your habits you have? Let me give you some other ones that might be on the list for some of you, if I may. Producer Chad and I were talking about saving all of your, how many of you grew up where your grandparents or your parents at least, especially the Cool Whip dishes, the little white Cool Whip dishes, that would become your Tupperware. You weren't going to throw those bowls out at all. That is your Tupperware, and you're going to save those no matter what. Anybody? Early on, I do remember as a college kid, you had the red Solo cups, and the red Solo cups were made to be disposable. And we were so poor, we would wash the red Solo cups as college kids, say we'll use them at the next party, which really defeats the purpose of a disposable cup when you're washing it. But that brought up another story of producer Chad talking about people who actually save their plasticware that comes in fast food packages. What are some of the habits of frugality that you have that now you kind of think of and say, this is kind of silly that I do this, but you still do it? What are those frugal habits that you might have? Love to hear from some of you. Using grocery bags as trash bags. I think that's just a reusing thing. I don't know if that's frugal. I guess it is frugal. Back before in Colorado, they banned us from having plastic bags. Before Jared Polis was going to send out his jackbooted Nazi thugs to arrest us for having a plastic bag, I would use the grocery bags as pooper scooper picker-uppers for dog messes. I thought that was always handy. What poor habits you have. Always going to the clearance section at the store first. Here's one that comes in: keeping leftover screws, nuts, and bolts from furniture, kits, any broken appliance. If you have it, and one day you're going to go out to that coffee can or wherever it's at, and you're going to dig through. I think I got one for that. And you could have gone down to the Ace Hardware or the Home Depot and probably got the True Value hardware, and you could have gotten something maybe real quick. But instead, you're digging through 45 years or 30 years or 10 years of leftover screws, nuts, and bolts from everything, leftover parts. When you put that piece of furniture together, you're like, I don't know what all this crap is, but we may need it one day. Don't want to throw that out, and you drop it in there. Some of the frugal habits that you still have. Who's going to confess here first this morning? Frugal habits that you have that you just can't get away from. Cody says washing out Ziploc bags. There is a whole thing of that. Canning and preserving food is one of those habits you can't get out of. Actually, Rich, that's healthy. You're making America healthy again doing that. It is frugal, but it's good. Jim says use cash if possible. Budget using envelopes, real or virtual, and only buying used cars and trucks. I don't know in my life if I have ever bought a brand spanking new car, because the depreciation when you drive off that lot is pathetic. And I've driven nice cars, and I don't care what car I drive. I really, honest to God, don't. But I've driven what you call the marquee car. People, oh, you drive that? Yeah, I do. but I didn't pay the full value price. I paid the discounted price because I bought it a year or so old. But I think that's smart. That's just good business. But I'm talking about, Cody says, washing out the Ziploc bags. I do remember growing up sometimes my mom would say, we can reuse that. It's only, don't wash that out. And you're washing out a bag, you're washing out a Ziploc going, I don't know why we're doing. You spread it out and dry it over a towel because you got to be frugal. My grandparents, I don't remember the cause of it, but if there was a salvageable piece of foil, like tin foil, aluminum foil, they would save that. They'd wash it, wipe it down, and you'd stack it up because you never, and that I was told was a World War II thing, because that was very valuable commodity. And if you were luxurious enough to have some foil, you better use it and get extra use out of it. All right, so there's your question of the day out there. All the things, all change goes into the savings jar. You know, I just did this recently. I was cleaning up some stuff and found lots of coins, and I got them all, and I said, boy, they got a lot of coins here, years and years of coins. And I went down to the grocery store where they have that machine, and I'm dumping the coins in by the bucket load. That was fun. Save your coins. Always save your coins. All right, frugal things you have, but you still have, that you do that you probably could have let them go, but you did not let them go. Give us your thoughts on the frugal things that you've participate in that, now that you think of it, is not necessarily what you have to do. Here's another example. I've told this story before. When I was in college, dirt poor, in our college, not like my son's college, so we had one place to eat. It was a cafeteria, and you ate what was served, and it was on my meal plan, and I did not have extra money to go out gallivanting around the college town and go to the bars and the restaurants. And so I would save my money very much as an 18, 19-year-old kid, and I'd save my money, and I could go to Taco Bell once a week. And I usually do it on a Friday, kind of looking forward to Thursday, looking forward to kind of a Friday weekend kickoff and that. And I'd save all the money I could. I have enough coins to go to Taco Bell, and I could go to Taco Bell and I could get a bean burrito. It's like 59 cents, 69 cents, right? Just a bean burrito. And I got my bean burrito. And if I saved enough money, I could also get a Dr. Pepper. And I would never invite anybody to go, hey, I'd never say, go to Taco Bell. Who wants to go? No, it was my private time. I'd drive there in my car, was running on fumes because I put gas in it and tried to drive as much on the tank of gas as I could. And I'd eat my bean burrito from Taco Bell. And I'd eat my bean burrito. I'd drink my Dr. Pepper in solitude. And I'd say, I'll see you again next week, Taco Bell, if I can find enough coins in the cushion. And do you know, to this day, if I have ever been spotted at a Taco Bell, they've got all these fancy things and things you can eat. I will always inevitably say, at least got to have a bean burrito. I can afford something now on the Taco Bell menu that maybe, I won't say gourmet, but I can afford the something else. But I go back to the bean burrito. I don't care. I don't care if you've got a quesadilla or something wrapped in Doritos and Cheetos and a chalupa. It doesn't matter to me. I eat the bean burrito. Why? Because I liked it. All right, good to have all of you here. There's your question of the day. Diving into some topics about the court stopping the El Paso County family of this terrorist illegal that tried to burn up Jews and people in Boulder. A judge has stepped in and said, you cannot deport these people right now. And the Department of Homeland Security is dealing with that this morning. Give me your thoughts on that. And also the Elon Musk critique. What do you think of Elon saying the big, beautiful bill is a piece of crap and you should feel ashamed of yourself for voting for it? And why do you think that Donald J. Trump has not pushed back on the criticism? Almost had my emphasis a little bit wrong on the emphasis of that word. And I also almost criticism. Why do you think he's not pushing back on the criticism? I've given my theories. You give me yours. All right. Question of the day. What are some of the things that you continue to do that are very frugal? You may even say they're your poor people's habits, but you keep doing them. Anybody wash their foil? I know my grandparents did. Elderly people did that. I still see people wash their Ziploc bags, reuse those things. But poor people habits that you still do. Ray says, I shop at the Goodwill, the Salvation Army stores. Arloa says, I wash and keep a few empty containers to send food home with friends and family after having them over for supper. Do you send them in a Cool Whip bowl? Because that cool, I don't know what it was about the Cool Whip bowl, but that was like the poor man's Tupperware, the Cool Whip bowl. And I remember, I think it was my grandparents. I don't think it was my parents, my mom. But I remember in the freezer, you'd freeze stuff in the Cool Whip bowl, and written in a magic marker or a Sharpie or whatever they called them in the day, it was the name. It'd say chili, October 9th, 10/9, whatever. That's how they knew when they put it in the freezer. It was a Cool Whip bowl. I don't think I've gone through that much Cool Whip to have a collection of Cool Whip bowls, though. All right, good to have all of you here on the program. Jimmy is my name. I've been unleashed from the confines of corporate radio, and here we are together, and I'm pleasured to be here with you. All right, don't forget, comment in all the chat rooms. Love to hear you. You know the question of the day. Let me welcome in my first guest of the morning, retired Colonel William Dunn. He's waiting patiently for me to stop pontificating so he can proliferate on his own. William Dunn, welcome to the show, sir. Colonel, how are you?
Hey, Jimmy, great. Thanks for having me. How y'all doing today?
I'm doing great. Looks like you're in a log cabin there, my friend.
I actually am. It is a log cabin.
Well, very good. You look. Is this the homestead, or are you out somewhere camping and enjoying some quiet time?
This is the homestead. Absolutely.
Very good for you. It looks lovely. Great. People are jealous right now. Listen, friends. The Bible says don't covet. Don't do that. Don't be coveting Colonel Dunn's house. He earned it. Okay, leave him alone. All right, Colonel, I want to get your thought here. Yesterday, President Trump tweeted out or truthed out or whatever he does now that he had a talk with Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin not ready for peace talks yet, and he says Putin's going to retaliate against this fantastic, crazy drone strike on Russian airfields. Folks who don't know, it is 18 months in the planning. They put shipping containers filled with drones that nobody knew that were in there. And when they got there, they automatically lifted the tops off these shipping containers. Drones fly out and attack a Russian airfield, a lot of it Russian airfields. I may have some of that wrong, but give me your thoughts as a military guy. When you heard about this drone attack and this attack by Ukraine, your thoughts on it, sir?
Well, first of all, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant attack. And I will tell you, it helps us in the long run. When I say us, I mean the United States. Obviously, we have a peer competitor in Russia. They're tied up once again in a long, drawn out war. Any assets they use against Ukraine in this war is assets they won't be using against us in the future if we ever had to come to blows with them. And for them to take a 30 to 40% hit, that's what's been reported on their nuclear capable bombers. That's wonderful for the United States. It's wonderful for the world, the rest of the free world. So it does two things, though. One, it shows Russia their vulnerabilities. They have been the paper bear, paper tiger in this entire conflict. We studied them. I studied the Russians for decades in the Marine Corps. I thought they were going to do better in this fight. I thought they would have won it by now with their initial tactics. And now they're seeing that they can't. They probably won't win it the way they're thinking, and that they just got crushed. But it also probably delays what I would consider a peace dividend between the two countries. When you strike Russia like that, Putin cannot end the war now. And I don't think he will. So if I was Ukraine, hopefully in their 18-month planning, they plan more than one of these strikes. And hopefully they did that.
So it's the pride, the narcissism of Putin will not allow him to go out like this, kind of after, surrender. Oh, you struck me. He's got to go out on top. And this causes that not to happen. How is Putin? Give me your thoughts on how the guy survives. He's lost close to 1 million people in this war, a war that when it started a few years ago, people thought, it's probably going to be over in 5-10 days. I mean, they're going to lay down. He's lost almost 1 million people, obviously countless numbers of military assets as well. What do you think about the inside of the old Soviet Union and Putin's government? Is there any threat to him that they're going to somehow he's going to be removed or taken out? Are there any rivals that say enough is enough inside Russia?
Well, if you're a rival, you cannot declare it. If you declare that you're a rival of Putin, you will probably not survive the day. So if they're going to do something like that, they need to do it. They need to enact it, and they need to execute it straight up. And once you start, you cannot stop. I think that's possible. You have to believe that there are some rational actors in Russia, right? They're a wily foe. I believe they're smart people. They are a nuclear capable country. They've been able to develop very highly sophisticated, highly technical things. They have to be realizing this loss in this war is not going the way they think. But we've seen in the past with Russia, if you go, if you try to bid against Putin, you're probably going to end up in jail. best case, or dead, worst case. So if they're going to do it, they got to do it, and the sooner the better. I don't think we'll see that. It's just too risky for them. But I believe that many of our folks and many of our allies would probably hope for something like that. The problem is, who takes over? Is he better or worse? And so, the old saying goes, better to fight the devil you know than the devil you don't. Maybe it's better to keep Putin in there, just give him a way out, and that's what the world needs to do. And I think it's delayed now because of this latest actions.
If you're listening later in the day, not watching, you're listening on the podcast that happens right after this show. It goes out on all the podcast platforms. You're listening to the voice of decorated Marine Corps Colonel William Dunn, and he's the author of a book called Gunfighter's Rule. We'll talk about the book here in just a moment, Gunfighter's Rule. It's fascinating, this attack that happened. It's 18 months into planning. The drone attack shipped in. I mean, what a risk. He drove these drones in shipping containers thousands of miles into the Russian interior. I mean, it was just, it's almost sounds like something you would see in a movie, and someone came up with that. And you're thinking hopefully they have another trick up their sleeve, is what you're saying, that maybe they're not going to, Russia's going to be very suspicious about shipping containers carrying drones now, but maybe they have some other creative things on the horizon.
I hope so. And what I would do if I was in this fight, I would do exactly what Ukraine just did: hit a hard strike, strategic strike. But once you do that, you can't back off. It kind of goes to the same. My same thought on Putin. If you're gonna, if you're internal to Russia and you're gonna make a move on Putin, you can't declare. You got to do it. So if I'm Ukraine, ideally my staff in the Marine Corps would not have built me one plan. They would have built me 3 plans. And we would have hit number 1, number 2, and number 3 in succession. And I think that's how our military leaders think, right? We're not going to do one thing and back off and stop. So hopefully they've got 2 or 3 more up their sleeve, and they'll enact them, because they better expect that Russia is going to retaliate, and they may retaliate with their, maybe Russia's planning container UAS attacks as well. And maybe we're going to see that. One thing I do throw out, this better be a daggone wake-up call for all of our U.S. bases in the country and out of the country. If you can do this to Russia, you can do this to us. And with an open border of 4 years, how many man-portable drones came in backpacks of our adversaries, walked right across our border, and could be planning a very similar type attack on our bases? We need to wake up. We need to prepare for that.
We're hearing recently President Trump talking about the gold dome, he calls it, wanting to protect us from long range intercontinental ballistic missiles coming in. But this attack there against Russia makes you think, well, this would not have been stopped by the gold dome. You're right. We have to have the gold dome is one thing, and we're glad they do it. And the Israelis have the Iron Dome. But what do you think, or what do you know that the U.S. military is doing to prevent and or protect us against said drone type attacks that the gold dome would not stop?
I will state this, and I know this. I shouldn't say factually, right? Because I'm no longer in uniform. I am very confident that we are not doing enough, and we do not have the assets right now to protect every one of our bases against a similar attack. I believe we are not ready. I was just down in Tampa at a thing called SOF Week, Special Operations Force Week. That is a topic of discussion, and I will tell you, we have not solved that problem yet.
What is it? Again, I don't want you to reveal any secrets if you have any, but what would the Russians have needed to do to prevent? I mean, obviously, let's say the containers get all the way there, the drones launch. What kind of is there a defense? Do you have to stop? You just have to have intelligence to not let the drones get that close. Is there some kind of a system out there that can detect this stuff? It seems like it's kind of like chasing after a little mouse that gets loose in your house. How do you catch that little booger?
Well, look at step one. They probably came across the border, a porous border.
Yeah.
Okay. So
sounds familiar.
Sounds very familiar, right? And that's why we need to be terrified. Porous border, giant border. Russia's giant border. They came across. What they did is they figured a way to infiltrate those systems into the country, and they did it. Obviously, they didn't get caught. So they went through a porous border. Step one, you need to secure your border. And that's the foot stomper here. People can get across your border, whether driving vehicles or walking. It's a threat to your country. Number two, just like we are not doing enough of, I'm confident, is they don't have a golden dome around their air bases. Imagine, a golden dome is going to protect a country. Each air base needs something to protect it from inside the country. And obviously Russia didn't have that. I'm very confident to say that we don't have that in enough capacity. And hopefully we will not find out that that's a weakness in our defense by the action of a terrorist attack that takes out our equipment. If Russia was to stop this, they most likely had to stop it at the border, because like you said, once you pop off the top and you send 177 drones, it's very hard for the systems to get them. I don't know what altitude they flew, but I suspect they flew at treetop level.
Yeah. It's fascinating. What are you hearing? I'm sure Russia's not disclosing the full level of damage. Some people say it's like their Pearl Harbor really took a hit on their air defense. And what kind of damage do you think was done to Russia?
I would say that our assets probably know the exact amount of damage. And one of the things we do in the military, and it may seem funny to some listeners to hear this, we literally know exact numbers of aircraft and tanks, or very close to exact, that our adversaries have, just as they know our numbers. When you buy a Whiskey Cobra, which I flew in the Marine Corps bought, I think, 210 of them. Very open source. There's some to fly, and then there's some for attrition when they break. So we know how many bombers the Russians have. I'm very confident we know exact numbers of those. Now, Russia will say you damaged 4 or 5. Ukraine is saying they took out 40% of their bomber fleet. The truth probably lies somewhere in between. And what I did see in the open source, which is very telling, is the production lines for those aircraft are gone. So they cannot replace them. They're going to have to open up a new line and build a new aircraft. It's not like you can just refit them, because I'm sure they have parts, and some of them that have been hit will probably not be completely destroyed. They'll pull all those parts off and then use them as, cannibalized parts to help other aircraft. But if they took out 40%, maybe it's really closer to 25. I suspect it's classified in our men and women in uniform still. They probably know exact numbers.
The voice again and the face, of course, if you're watching, but some of you listen later in the day on the podcast version of the show, decorated Marine Corps Colonel William Burner Dunn, author of a book called Gunfighter's Rule. Colonel, let me have you jump into the book, Gunfighter's Rule, talking about your experience. We've talked on the old radio show about what you detail in the book, and it's your experience flying that Whiskey Cobra copter. Talk about the book.
Well, thanks. Yeah, so after 33 years in the Marine Corps, I spent a lot of time in and out of Iraq. I did 4 tours in there. And during my first tour in Iraq, I was a forward air controller. During that time, I was with a bunch of Marines. We took the fight to the enemy and went from Kuwait all the way to Baghdad and all over. The Marines in our track were like, hey, I kept a journal, and they're like, you need to write a book one day. So I stay in the Marine Corps. I finished my tour as the commander of the Gunfighters. Hence the name of Gunfighter's Rule. That was our motto. An HMLA 369 squadron out of Camp Pendleton, California. And I took 334 men and women in a bunch of aircraft into Iraq. And we spent 7 months out of Al Taqaddum airfield, fighting the bad guys. We brought everybody home, brought all our aircraft back home safely. And so that book talks about me growing up. I had some personal tragedies in my family. I had to make a decision whether I was going to overcome them. I overcome them by joining the Marine Corps at 17. And I kind of highlight that through the book. And as I tell readers, and my wife says this, she goes, the book's kind of about resiliency and determination, but I also, especially any military folks up there, if you've got some combat time, it may bring back some stress. And when I reread it, it does. And some of my peers have told me it brings back a lot of good and bad memories.
No. Again, retired Colonel William Dunn. We will continue to tell you about his book, maybe have him back on, talk more about it. Real quick, I want to ask you, you said this attack by Ukraine against Russia probably is going to prolong the war because Putin can't really, his pride won't let him surrender now. Prognostication, if Ukraine doesn't have, they only had the one punch, not the 1-2 punch, but Putin has some kind of a disability here because he doesn't have the air capabilities that he did because of the strike. What are you prognosticating? What would you think the next few weeks would look like?
I would suspect right now what I see as the center of gravity of Ukraine is Zelensky. The center of gravity in my mind, if Zelensky goes down, I don't know who's going to replace him. I don't know which leader would emerge and carry this fight. I suspect you're going to see Putin focus on Zelensky and try to, decapitate Ukraine. That's my belief.
Yeah.
He's proven, and it has been proven, that the more you attack a civilian population like he's been doing for 3 years, it hardens them. They realize there's no way that they can surrender to Russia because they're just going to get more of the same. So those attacks are not working. A lot of folks have asked me, do I think he's going to launch a nuclear weapon of a tactical nature into Ukraine? Yeah, obviously anything's possible. I don't think he will, because then you ruin Ukraine. You nuke them, you can't use the area. It's going to be decades before you can go back in there and have it. So I don't think that'll happen. I don't think he has the capacity to increase too much more conventional ability. So I think you'll see some asymmetric warfare. They've tried that with the Wagner group. It didn't work out well. But I think you'll see more of that. And I think he's going to try to take out Zelensky, is my guess.
Retired Colonel William Dunn, decorated Marine Corps member, and we appreciate him coming on. If folks want a copy of your book, Gunfighters Rule, where do they go, sir?
They can get it anywhere you buy books. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. Mostly the easiest one is Amazon.com. Just Google Gunfighters Rule. It'll pop up, and you can get yourself a copy.
And are you out there commentating on the social media sites anywhere?
I'm not doing too much because I'm still working full time at my company, Strategic Resilience Group, and so we're quite busy. But I do have a new website out, williamdunn.com. You can look up there and you can see some stuff about the book.
You got it. Colonel Dunn, appreciate you. Thank you for your great service to this country. And Gunfighters Rule is the name of the book, Gunfighters Rule. All right, ladies and gentlemen, glad to have you here. Let me remind you, if you ever want me to shout out on your business, send me an email, info@jimmylakey.com. We'd love to brag about your business, figure out how we can partner together on this exciting little thing that we call Lakey Unleashed. And again, if you're listening later in the day, that counts for you as well. A lot of you listen on the podcast version. Some of you are watching across America and around the globe on the stream version live. But again, some of you listen audio only, but info@jimmylakey.com. Anytime you want to contact us, especially if you'd like us to partner with you in your business and you want to be a supporter of the Lakey Unleashed Streamcast podcast and broadcast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we had him on a couple of weeks ago. His name is Salvador Litvak. He's written a book, and we want to have him jump into the program here. My next guest of the morning, film director, author, influencer, Salvador Litvak. Welcome back, sir.
Great to be with you, Jimmy. Always a pleasure.
You wrote a book called Let My People Laugh. It's a humor for the Jewish humor. A lot of fun stuff in there. We talked about in the last segment. But Saturday, you had some good people that were either Jews or supporting the Jewish community gathered just about 25 minutes down the road here, or 20 minutes down the road in Boulder, Colorado. And some, I call them demonic terrorists, showed up and tried to light people on fire. As someone that is in the Jewish community and very much a communicator and influencer in the Jewish community, let me just start there. What went through your head when you heard about the attacks in Boulder, Colorado, Saturday or Sunday?
Jimmy, it hit very close to home. An 88-year-old Holocaust survivor was injured by this maniac who threw a Molotov cocktail at her. My grandmother was an 88-year-old Holocaust survivor. When she left this world, she carried my mother as an infant through a camp. And the Hungarian side of my family always said, Jew hatred is as old as the hills. It can happen anywhere. It could happen in America. We said, this Europe, okay, things could happen in Europe, but not in America. We'd never see something like that in America. And since October 7th, these people feel emboldened, loud, proud, chanting their hatred from the rooftops, on the college campuses, calling for the murder of Jews, by their little phrase, globalize the intifada. That's exactly what it means. And you say that often and loud enough, and eventually somebody feels the moral calling to do just that. We had the attack in Washington, D.C., this one in Boulder. There was another one in Baltimore where, thank God, the rabbi was carrying a gun and he was able to defend himself and scare off the attackers. But the pace of these attacks and this hatred is increasing, and it's terrible.
Even going against trying to burn down, firebomb the governor's mansion in Pennsylvania. Josh Shapiro, him and his family were home. Fortunately, they were in a different area of the home. This globalize the intifada movement, it seems as if it's, I mean, obviously people can pick up slogans on the interweb. That seems like that's easy to do, but it's crystallized here in America that makes you wonder, where are these types of people getting their marching orders? Is there some mystery chat room that they're all in? You think of the college kids, they've been indoctrinated in the college campus. This Egyptian guy's been roaming the streets of America for many years. Is there a central source of this inspiration that's causing Americans, from a man who has 5 kids to a college kid, to hold up a sign that says globalize the intifada? Where's this indoctrination coming from?
Yes, it is a centralized control. That's not some kind of conspiracy theory. I know a guy in the ad business, Gary Wexler, and he was working on a peace effort, in the 80s, where there was said there must be reasonable people on both sides of the Israel and Palestinian conflict, and we just bring them together, we'll be able to forge peace. And when he actually met the people on the other side who are in the communications end of the Palestinian effort, they said to him point blank, "Oh, we don't need you. We don't need you at all. We've got so much funding," and they were talking about Qatar, and we have a plan. And they have been putting that plan into effect for 30 years. They've been financing these universities and filling these so-called Arab studies departments, and funding, this intersectional effort. Which at the end of the day reduces everything to the whole world is white people oppressing brown people, and they're going to stuff every conflict into that box. And what's the upshot of that? That, well, Jews are obviously white people. That's not true. And in Israel, there's a lot of non-white people. And the Palestinians are obviously brown people, and that's not true. But they just keep telling the lie often enough. And you saw on October 7th, and especially on October 8th, but the protest started on the same day. How were they ready to have a protest and come out on October 7th? There was knowledge. They were prepared to organize these protests. And then at Columbia University, when they have an encampment, they all have the same tents, quite expensive tents from Eddie Bauer or whatever. Yeah. And it was like somebody brought all the gear, all the equipment. It is a centralized effort, and they are bearing the bitter fruit that they have sought to grow for many years.
I watched some of these campus protests, or I watched them, films of them, and see them online. And you've got these little jackwagons, these dumb college kids, and some of them are college kids, some of them aren't. Some of them are rabble-rousing, coming in from the outside. But they're holding up signs that say "Free Palestine, Free Palestine." And what's funny is I would guess that most of them, if I took a map and say, "Show me Palestine," what are we freeing here? They couldn't point it out. They have no clue. It's just something they've been taught that they're supposed to say. They've taught virtue signal. How much of this do you think it's just people in America thinking, "Oh, that's the hip, trendy, cool thing to do," not realizing the implication of freeing Palestine, or from the river to the sea, is basically calling for genocide? How many people in America are just virtue signaling because they think that's what all the cool people are doing, not realizing that that's a secret cry for genocide?
That's exactly right. You ask them from the river to the sea. Which river? Which sea? They have no clue. And in fact, it's exactly right what you're saying, Jimmy, is let's look at a map together. If you actually sit with these people and say, let's look at the map. This is Israel. Where? Right here. This is Israel. What do you mean? Where is it? It's such a tiny sliver surrounded by this vast landmass, curvature of the earth. Hundreds of millions of Arab Muslims. To say that there's no room for the Palestinians anywhere in that vast landmass, I mean, they would only have to move 10 miles away and there would be no conflict. It's never been about the land. It's never been about the colonizers. there's only one tiny Jewish homeland, and it offends them. They don't want it. They see it as some kind of a stain on their honor that Israel exists, and they'll do anything to wipe us out. And so this is just the latest front in that war, is manipulating thought in America. And they took a play. Where did they learn that? From Russian communists and Chinese communists. Those people are also trying to infiltrate our universities and teach us that America is bad and that we should be ashamed of ourselves. When you lower the spirit of the enemy, that's a fighting tactic. That's a war tactic. I'm sure your previous guest could talk a lot about that.
Again, if you're listening later in the program, is Salvador Litvak. He's written a book called Let My People Laugh. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. That's his most recent book, also a filmmaker, documentary maker as well. Salvador, as I'm sitting here laughing sometimes, just the ignorance, talking about the ignorance of some these people on the campus protesters at Columbia. You even see people holding up signs that say, LGBTQ for freeing Palestine. And I'm thinking, it's Pride Month, and any of these people wanting to celebrate Pride Month ought to go try that over in some of these Muslim-controlled, Islamic-controlled territories, and they could celebrate by taking a flight off a roof. I mean, to portray these people as victims, as these terrorists, and that somehow it's absolutely incredible the ignorance is out there. LGBTQ for free Palestine, unbelievable.
Chickens for KFC.
Yeah, that's what it is. Real quick, talk about your book, Let My People Laugh. It's not just for the Jewish folk out there, is it? It's for everybody.
Absolutely. We've been through so much in our thousands-year-long history, very dark times, and somehow we get ourselves through it with humor. It's just the most Jewish thing to crack jokes in the darkest of times. In the same way that we break a glass at a wedding, right? To remember our sorrow at the highest highs. And that keeps us going in our lowest lows, where we're able to have a sense of humor about it. And I'm a humorist. I've always collected these jokes. And thank God Let My People Laugh is a bestseller on Amazon, and people can find it there. And my movie, Guns and Moses, it's not a documentary. It's an action thriller opening July 18th. And it's very much relevant to what's going on now. It's about a rabbi, beloved, peaceful guy whose community is violently attacked. And he's forced to become a gunfighter, an unlikely gunfighter. But when he goes through the training and he takes it seriously, he becomes a force to be reckoned with. And the training that he goes through is the same training I've been through in a volunteer organization called Maganam, which means Shield of the Nation in Hebrew. An Orthodox Jews like me, which is to say visible Jews, we will not be a soft target in these dangerous times. We're not victims. And many of us carry, and we know how to use our firearms, and please God, we should never need them. But if we do, we'll not be a soft target.
Yeah, that's one of the speculations here in Colorado, maybe across America. Why did this guy drive all the way from where he lived to Boulder? And why was there an attack at a grocery store in Boulder? Boulder has signs of everywhere, gun-free zone. Where the guy was at was a gun-free zone. And people travel to Boulder to do crimes because the people have been disarmed by their government. And that was one of the things I talked with one of our Colorado sheriffs this week about. He says, if this would have happened in my county, where we're not a gun-free, virtue signaling area, this guy would not have probably been arrested. Somebody on the streets would have had something and taken him out, and we wouldn't have prosecuted him. But soft targets, you cannot be, whether you're Jewish or anybody, you got to be careful about becoming a soft target. But you didn't know Boulder is a soft target, and it's obviously they're exploiting that.
Jimmy, a gun-free zone is to say only bad guys have guns, right? That's what a gun-free zone is.
Yeah. If they could stop this kind of behavior any other way with a gun-free zone sign, they should have put up a sign that says Molotov cocktail-free zone, and it would have worked, but it wouldn't have worked. So Salvador Litvak, again, the book is the #1 bestseller on the Amazon list. It's called Let My People Laugh. We've had your website and Twitter and X accounts flashing on the screen as well. When does Guns and Moses come out?
July 18th, theaters across America. There's never been a movie like it, and there won't be another one unless people support it with their feet. I don't think I have to tell you, Jimmy, that there's that same woke virus that is running these college campuses is running rampant in Hollywood. And these people produce one woke flop after another because they're so untethered. They're so disjoint from who America is and what America is looking for. Our movie, first and foremost,
Guns and Moses.
It's an entertaining action thriller but it could not be more timely, and people will enjoy it. Stars Mark Feuerstein, the great Neil McDonough, Christopher Lloyd, and Dermot Mulroney.
Guns N' Moses coming in July. Make sure you pay attention. So, Mr. Lindfab, we'll have you back on the program before then, and we can talk more about it, maybe even do a long-form interview with you here in the future, and talk about how you ended up in the world of that you're in, writing books and making films as probably didn't choose that path on career day. Most of us didn't. It just kind of happened. Ladies and gentlemen, our aviation and travel expert joins us in the green room from the green room. He is connected now. We bring him in. Jay Ratliff. How are you, Mr. Ratliff? Good to have you here, sir.
I'm doing well. Thank you, and good morning.
Well, I saw the list of stories you sent over in the aviation and travel world, and it looks like it was quite a list, by the way. Boeing. Well, we keep talking about Boeing. How long are they going to continue to be idiots? And it looks like United Airlines has said, Boeing, we're tired of waiting on you. We're going to have to order some Airbuses.
Yeah, it comes down to their Boeing 737-10 series, and Boeing's had a certification delay, significant, and as a result, what's taking place is that they made an announcement. Some of these airplanes aren't going to be turned over to customers until at least 2027. And United Airlines, tired of waiting, they don't have to have Boeing. They have both Boeing and Airbus in their fleet. They quietly just said, okay, let's take 40 Airbus aircraft, please. It didn't make a lot of noise, and they tried to make it kind of quietly, but look, you spend that much money, it's going to be known. And you have a situation where, Boeing last year delivered 300 and some airplanes, and I think Airbus delivered 766. So clearly Airbus is kicking Boeing's tail end. And right now, you just can't count on the delivery schedule for Boeing. And that's why United said, look, we need these newer fuel-efficient aircraft. We need them now or as soon as we can. And we're tired of waiting. And they went with Boeing's competitor on the latest aircraft order for 40, and that's a significant amount of their aircraft.
Yeah, that's a quite a big order. Airbus is probably celebrating, and it'll be interesting to see if any of this. That's what the amazing thing is, Jay. I'm not sure anything's really shaping Boeing up. It's just they continue to bungle this thing up from the delay of the Air Force One. I mean, are they getting any better? Is anybody learning any lessons there?
Well, 5 years ago, we were told that Boeing was going to turn the corner, become the airline or aircraft manufacturer of old, and they learned from their lessons. And of course, we found out recently they have not. So the Federal Aviation Administration's finally jumped in to do their job, and they're holding them accountable. And that's one of the reasons right now that Boeing's been told, we know you want to ramp up aircraft production, but we need you to adhere to this reduced schedule until we are convinced that you're doing everything as you should be doing. And that's what Boeing should have been doing 5 years ago, before we had the Alaska Airlines situation where the door plug fell off of an aircraft because it wasn't secured. And all of these whistleblowers have been coming forth for the last 4 or 5 years talking about how the production is not only slacking at Boeing, but in their words, downright dangerous. So I'm glad that we've seen it. I was very disappointed, though, to see that Boeing has reached a deal apparently with the Department of Justice to pay a big fine for the Boeing MAX crashes and the problems that they had, in essence covering up and lying to the FAA, airlines, and as well as the pilots. And they're not going to face criminal prosecution, even though they agreed to it previously under the Biden administration. When the torch was passed, they thought, this might be a little bit more friendly of a administration to airlines, and it is. And they have once again bypassed the legal responsibility of being held accountable, as the families of those that were lost in those 2 plane crashes, 346 lives, those 5 years ago. Yeah, they've been demanding it, and they're absolutely livid that Boeing has once again sidestepped legal responsibility.
Jay Ratliff is the voice you hear if you're listening later in the day and you hear voices only. It's Jay Ratliff, aviation and travel guru, expert, and commentator as well. Jay, you sent me an interesting photos, changing topics here. Evidently, there has been a demand for additional cockpit safety requirements on American aircraft, U.S. airlines. And first of all, what am I looking at here? And when is this supposed to happen? And is it going to happen?
Well, you fly a lot, so you see that anytime that a crew member, one of the pilots on the flight deck, has to use a lavatory, the flight attendants pull up, put the cart in, and as a barrier. and they kind of block people so that the pilot can get into the lavatory. They shut the cockpit door when the pilot's finished, and they come back out. Again, that baggage or the beverage cart is there with one of the flight attendants. And the thought was a few years ago, we really need to do something that's a little bit more protective than just an individual that might be pushed out of the way to gain access to the cockpit as the doors open as people are coming in and out. So in 2023, it was ordered by the FAA for airlines to have these cage doors, if you will, that basically open and they stay locked to the side. But when a crew member is coming out of the cockpit, they just swing that door into a locked position where you cannot access that hallway, if you will, past the galley, past the lavatory towards the cockpit. It's a secondary barrier, which is something that we determined, or they determined, was a much more critical way to keep things safe. So airlines were given 2 years, August of 2025, to have all of this in place and headed in that direction. And do you think that they've done it? Nope. So what they're asking for is, can we have two more years on this to really become fully compliant with what we've been told to do? And I'll be honest, I don't think the airlines want them. Now, this is just my opinion, but for airlines that will take a pickle off of a sandwich to save fuel over the course of a year, the idea of having this very heavy cage door on every aircraft where it's going to eat up fuel is an added expense to their bottom line. And in their mindset, at least how they've thought in the past, hey, what we're doing now is working. We don't need to have this secondary barrier that's put into an aircraft. And even though I've not heard a lot of vocal opposition to security enhancement, which would be very dangerous, by the way, if you did that, the perception is not quite what you'd like it to be. There's been a lot of people dragging their feet on it, and it's really unfortunate. Although these same individuals will proudly stand behind a podium proclaiming how safety is their number one priority, and we both know that that's obviously not the case.
Very quickly, let me rapid fire a couple of more of these, and then we'll let
Sure.
you go. Newark, I'm flying out next week. Matter of fact, Jay, next week, I'll send you know, next week we're probably not going to be on here because I'll be beginning a transportation over to Africa. That's going to be my first leg of the flight. And I told my travel agent, let's avoid Newark at all cost. I think we're routing through Chicago to head to Brussels. But nevertheless, Newark, you say, maybe seeing a little bit more flight activity in the coming days. Have they fixed a problem?
Just a little bit. I mean, teeny weeny, because what happened was that one of their existing runways was under construction as of April, and it is now in the process of being reopened. They've got inspections this week, and we're going to start to see a little bit more flight activity. But believe me, it's far too early to do a Snoopy dance, because pre all this mess, we used to see an average of 77 arrivals, 77 departures every hour at Newark at its peak. They've reduced that now to, I think, 26 or 28 in and out in an hour because of the lack of technology that we really need to see that's been failing us, shortage of air traffic controllers, and one of the runways being closed. Well, now that the runway is going to be open per an FAA inspection that's taking place, we're going to see that 26, 28, whatever flights an hour in and out increase to maybe 34. No. So it's going to be a slight correction, but the other two big issues that you and I have talked about for a while, and we'll be talking about for years, is the shortage of air traffic controllers. And that's going to take a long time to fix, as well as getting the updated technology in their hands. Also a great deal of time to fix. So as a result, what's going to happen is Newark's not going to get better anytime soon. And the head of the United Airlines came out saying, look, we're going to offer some really good deals for people that want to fly through Newark, some discounted fares, and we'll see if it happens. But yeah, Newark's going to be a mess for a while. So the headlines may talk about things improving, but on a scale of 1 to 10, we might have gone from a 2 to about a 2.5. It's a minimal improvement right now.
I'm glad I'm avoiding it next week. I will not be going through Newark there or back to Africa. All right, real quick, I got a question that has nothing to do with travel, but I've got to ask you one more question about travel. TSA is warning travelers when you get to the airport, don't use the charging stations. Danger, Will Robinson, danger.
Well, what's happened is and I can't remember what they call it, juice something, where you have the ability for individuals at a lot of these communal things that are provided at airports for people to actually hack into them. So if you've got your own little private charging device, you plug it into the wall somewhere, you're good to go. But a lot of times you don't have it, your charging device, so you get one of these communal type things and you just plug in with everybody else and kind of a big circle. Apparently, there's been a way that individuals have been able to hack into those so that if you plug into them, you actually are placing the information on your electronic device at risk, where someone can access it and pull from it all of the data you have, passwords and all of the financial information you may have and those types of things. And that personal information can obviously be used to steal from us. So the TSA is saying, look, for those that use these communal type things, please, please, please be aware that there's an added risk if you do so. So, for people that are that don't normally take their own charging device for their electronics, I'm certainly going to suggest you do so in your carry-on luggage so that you can avoid some of those communal things, because the last thing you want to do is place any of your information at risk.
The voice of Jay Ratliff. Jay, you and I did this is a non-travel related question. You were on my Critical Mission podcast about less than a year ago. We ought to put that up at the top of the feed so people can hear it. It's your tale and your take of going from a very desperate situation in your personal life to a very successful situation where you're at now. We have a question of the day out there. What are some of the frugal habits that you continue to have, your poor people habits that you keep going, no matter how rich you get, you keep doing them? And we've gone through the people that still keep every piece of leftover. So you put a piece of furniture together, you got leftover parts, you put it in a coffee can thinking you're going to need it one day. People still washing out their Ziploc bags to reuse. Maybe it's using your Cool Whip bowl for Tupperware. Any kind of frugal habits that you've kept along. I mean, was that period of life that you picked up when you were in survival. What are that frugal habit that Jay Ratliff still does?
Well, when I had no money, living in that motel room for 10 years, I thought, boy, if I ever have money, I'm going to have some nice vehicles and some very nice clothes. Those were the two things I thought, okay, I'm going to reward myself with that, because I'm tired of my old clothes and I'm tired of driving these vehicles that, are on their last leg. So then when you've got the money to do whatever you want, I find I spend very little money on clothing, and on vehicles I try to buy used and pay cash. That tends to be what I try to do, because you go into a dealership and they say, what can you afford as far as a monthly payment? And I'm like, no, that's not my preference. Yeah. And there have been occasions I have rewarded my wife and I with brand new vehicles, but that's not the norm, because a lot of times I tell my kids, look, you can own life or you can rent life. And the best way to own it is to save up money and pay things off. If you've got to finance them, pay it off early. When we financed one of our homes, we paid it off 20 years early. I hate debt. And the thought was, get out of it so you can save a whole lot of money in the interest things. And, if you can really control that part of it, people know to a penny what they make a year. You ask them what they spend in a month, they can't tell you. Yeah. And once you break down what you actually spend, and list it out, it's shocking how much money we spend on some of these extra type things that could actually be applied to your debt elimination, and you can knock out a lot of your debt quickly and get rid of that financial cancer as much as possible. But I would say limiting my clothes. Look, I've got like 3 pairs of shoes, and I thought I would have 200 suits and think, no. When you have it, you don't want to spend it, and unless you absolutely need to. And that's not being frugal, because believe me, we splurge at times on things, but those would be my 2.
You're not rewashing your Ziploc bags, though, are you?
No, that as you ran through that, I thought, nope, definitely not. But my wife, look, she goes out looking at things, and I say, honey, do you want that? It's on sale for 60% off. No, I need a little bit more. And I'm thinking, but I know we can afford it, but no. And I almost have to force her to buy things. And Sherry is just a godsend on that. And once it gets 70-80% off, yeah, I think I'll get it now. If not, it wasn't meant to be.
Waiting for the deal. All right, Jay, what's it like to travel across the country?
Looks like Dallas, Charlotte, and Detroit are going to be the headaches. And I think Charlotte's the biggest issue. A lot of storms through there really slowing things down. But other than that, it should be a pretty good day to fly. And obviously, as you take off next week, my friend, prayers for safe travel and great work on the other side where you're going. And keep my cell number handy as always. If you encounter any issues, let me know.
You got it, my friend. And the next time I talk to you, we won't do next Thursday. The following Thursday, good Lord willing, we will be doing the show. I will be in Rwanda while we do the
How
show.
cool. I love that. I love what you're doing there.
Appreciate you, my friend. God bless you. jratliff.com, jratliff.com. You can find his website, and don't hesitate to reach out to him. When you go there, you're going to see a lot about day trading. That's a good thing. He is a prolific day trader, but he also will answer any travel questions you have. Reach out to him, jratliff.com, RATLIFF, also daytradefund.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what this means. I hold it in my hand. It's like a king and a scepter, except it's a host and a cheap globe. It's time for the stolen memes section of the show, and which we simply do this incantation. Please note, this is we're still very Christian here. This is not an incantation like some of you think of, like at the Democrat Party where they're calling on Beelzebub or something. No, this is not that kind of thing. It's simply we steal memes from around the globe. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Ladies and gentlemen, look at this. That's the original on the screen gender-neutral bathroom. Everybody have a great summer now. There's your gender-neutral bathroom right there. It's a swimming pool if you're just listening to the a bunch of people in it. Everybody peeing together. The family and the friends that pee together stay together. I don't know. They're the gender-neutral bathroom. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. This is from comedian Steve Byrne, one of my favorites. He points out Elon Musk has 14 kids with 4 baby mamas. Steve says, I only have a wife and 2 kids, but I absolutely understand why Elon Musk wants to leave Earth. Yeah, Elon wants to live on Mars. 14 kids and 4 baby mamas. And Steve says, I got only 2 kids and 1 wife, and hell, I want to leave Earth half the time. So yeah, we got you. We understand you, brother Elon. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. This is text only. It says them. Hey, it's been called the Gulf of Mexico for almost 400 years. Stop it. And I reply and say, hey, they've been called men for over 2,000 years, but you were okay with changing that. I think we should put a little bit more emphasis on, hey, yeah, they've been called men for over 2,000 years, but you were okay with changing that, jackwagon. Just throw the jackwagon in there. It adds a little bit more emphasis on it. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Political cartoon. You can see the credit in the upper left-hand corner. President Lincoln, the general comes in. A circuit court judge just blocked your emancipation proclamation. A lot of truth to the illustrating absurdity is what that cartoon does. The absurdity of, Gordon P. Gallagher. And these jackass judges out there that are tyrants in robes. It's not a good thing. Yeah, block the Emancipation Proclamation. Why? Because a judge said so. Screw yourself, judge. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a true one. As the guru of Gab, I see my title is today. There's the Joe Biden White House last year. Real photo. The Pride Month, June 2024. They got the colors of the rainbow up there, June 2024, celebrating virtue signaling. It's Pride Month, jazz hands for everybody, Pride Month. Here's what the White House in America looks like today. It ain't a rainbow. It's simple. It's the red, it's the white, and it's the blue. And that's the way it should always be. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Ladies and gentlemen, that silence means we have milked the meme machine dry. And with that, we must now depart from here. But I got to tell you about Sherry Cree, homeswithsherry.com, one of our great sponsors of the program. Listen, I've been telling you that if you've been looking to buy a home, sell a home, maybe you're just kind of contemplating whether you want to do it this year or next year, you can talk to her 6 months, 8 months, a year in advance and just kind of get a strategy together. Whether you're in Fort Collins or Fort Lupton, Denver, Boulder, Broomfield, or anywhere that I-25 corridor here in Colorado, or maybe you're outside of the state and you want to move here, maybe you got to move out of state. It doesn't matter. Sherry Cree is that resource. Homeswithsherry.com. Homeswithsherry.com. I talk about her perspective. She wants to earn the right to be your realtor for life. So you owe it to yourself when you're contemplating real estate and you want to know the trends. Maybe you want to know, hey, if I hold off 6 months, is it going to be a better market? What are you hearing? Which is the best school district? Maybe you need to downsize, upsize. She wants to work so hard for you that she becomes your realtor for life. And it becomes the realtor that when your kids want to turn old enough to buy a home, you say, you got to call Sherry. She's helped our family so much. Real estate can create generational wealth if you play it right, and Sherry will walk you through and be a partner with you in that. HomesWithSherry.com. A lot of people can stick a sign in the yard and hold an open house, but it's that whole perspective of the strategy that she can walk you through, and you just talk to her. HomesWithSherry.com. HomesWithSherry.com. Fantastic friend of myself. She's actually been to Rwanda and seen our projects over there. Great supporter of our charity, Rivers Promise, and I think you'll like her. Ask her about Africa, too. She'll tell you all about them. RiversPromise.org is our charity. Her site is HomesWithSherry.com. HomesWithSherry.com. I hope you'll reach out to her and reach out to her today. Ladies and gentlemen, as you heard, we got, 4 more shows before I hit the road for Africa. But I will be doing the broadcast the best of our ability with technology from Africa. We'll take a couple of days off for the travel. That's next week, though, so we'll be here next week, most of the week. If you'd like to donate to our work in Rwanda, a couple of you donated yesterday. Rachel, thank you for that donation. Scott, I had to think how to donate. I'm going from memory here. $250 yesterday. Rachel put in $500. Listen, what? $50, $25. Help us out. You're not just helping feed kids and educate kids, you're helping them have eternal hope as we give them the Christian message at our Legacy Christian Academy. It's body, soul, and mind. You get the idea. We're taking care. It's a holistic approach. We feed them, we clothe them, we educate them, but we also want them to know eternal hope and want them to know Jesus. That's what we do there. You're helping us do that when you do it. RiversPromise.org. RiversPromise.org. Donate today. Love to have you help us out. RiversPromise.org. RiversPromise.org. Until we meet again tomorrow morning, I am Jimmy Lakey, unleashed from the confines of corporate radio. May God bless you. May God bless America. Jimmy Lakey, peace